gospel reading today, Jesus continues to defy messianic expectations by healing people rather than raising an army to challenge Rome, as the Jewish Messiah was expected to do. After first healing a man with an unclean spirit in the synagogue, as we read about last Sunday, Jesus then heals Simon's mother-in-law. He cleanses a leper and cures many others who are sick with all kinds of diseases. And Jesus does this all within the first chapter of Mark's jam-packed gospel. And it all seems to take place within a few days at the beginning of his ministry. Jesus is very busy. At the center of our gospel reading is this sentence about Jesus getting up early in the morning while it is still dark and going to a deserted place to pray. As I said last week, the source of Jesus' authority is the healing love of God, which he embodies perfectly as the Son of God. And yet, we need to remember that Jesus is also fully human and that he occasionally needs to retreat, take a break from his active and probably hectic healing ministry to reconnect with the Father and to hear the divine voice of love. Jesus gets up in the pristine stillness of the dark and early morning to hear the still small voice of the Father, which empowers him and refreshes him and renews his strength. The gospel says that Jesus goes to a deserted place. And this is a translation of the Greek phrase, Ereymon Topon. Now, Topon means place, and it's where we get the word topography, like a topographic map. And the word Ereymon means uninhabited or solitary, and that's where we get the word hermit. So Jesus essentially finds his own little hermitage to retreat and pray, because Jesus knows that in order to embody God's healing love in the world, he needs to cultivate a regular practice of prayerful silence and solitude. This gospel passage, which we just read, and this phrase, Ereymon Topon, are some of the crucial seeds that produced the Christian monastic movement that continues to this day. And this movement first began to germinate in the 4th and 5th centuries when Christians ventured into the harsh deserts of Egypt and Palestine to find their Ereymon Topon, their deserted place, to practice silence and solitude, and to be renewed by the divine voice of love. These people were known as the Desert Fathers and Mothers. The movement then spread and moved west and north into the British Isles, where it manifested in some beautifully unique ways among the Celtic saints and mystics, whom we as Anglicans can claim as our spiritual forebears. The movement then really took off when St. Benedict of Nursia and his monastic rule became popular and dominant throughout Western Europe, especially due to the work of Pope Gregory the Great. And this Benedictine branch of the Christian monastic movement expanded and evolved over hundreds of years, galvanized by the wisdom and leadership of people like Bernard of Clairvaux and Hildegard of Bingen, and more recently Thomas Merton and Joan Chittister, and many others. It was this Christian monastic movement that inspired 2 young Episcopal women named Eva Lee Matthews and Beatrice Henderson to find their own Ereymon Topon, their own spiritual hermitage. Like Jesus, Eva and Beatrice knew that in order to embody God's healing love in the world, they needed to have a regular practice of prayerful silence and solitude. And they did this by making religious vows to get up early in the morning every day and go to a quiet place to pray. Eva and Beatrice eventually became the founders of a community of sisters devoted to prayer and to service. And their biblical models were Martha, who was known for being very busy and active with ministry, and her sister Mary, who was known for being more contemplative and prayerful. Eva actually first wanted to name the community after Martha and Mary, like the name of our parochial mission in Trinidad, Saints Martha and Mary. However, when they found out there was already an Anglican society of sisters named after Martha and Mary called the Sisters of Bethany, they decided instead to name their community after an event in the life of Jesus. Jesus, the one who perfectly balanced the active life with the contemplative life, as we see in our gospel reading this morning. They named their community the Community of the Transfiguration. And the sisters of this community continue to this day to get up early in the morning and go to their own Ereymon Topon to pray. And I am personally grateful for their discipline of prayer and for the many spiritual seeds that they have already planted within this community and within Eureka. The Sisters of the Transfiguration and the monastic movement of which they are a part invite us all to find our own Ereymon Topon, our own place of silence and solitude, where we can hear God's voice and be renewed. Although many of us have not made vows to be hermits or monks or nuns, many of us have made baptismal vows in which we promise to continue in the prayers, to continue praying like the Sisters of the Transfiguration, like the Benedictine monks, like the Celtic saints, the Desert Fathers and Mothers, like Jesus of Nazareth. So where is your Ereymon Topon? Where is your place of prayerful silence and solitude, where you can hear most clearly the still small voice of God? What things push you to go there, and what prevents you from going there? What distractions hunt you down, like Peter hunting down Jesus in his Ereymon Topon, trying to take him away? As Christ Church Eureka begins a new season, I invite us all to root ourselves deeply in a daily practice of prayer, so that we can hear God's invitations to us as individuals and as a community. We don't have to get up at the crack of dawn every morning, but I encourage us all to find our own Ereymon Topon and spend some time there each day. This is how Jesus can continue his effective healing ministry through us. And how God, in the words of the prophet Isaiah, can renew our strength so that we can mount up with wings like eagles, so that we can run and not be weary, walk and not be faint. Amen.